Hello, today I want to show you a very fun demo that I built for auditing enterprise applications. I know that fun and audits usually don't belong in the same phrase when we talk about enterprise apps, and that's usually because legacy is hard to change, right? So when we need some auditing, some new rules regarding our data, sometimes it's a bit tricky to find how those apps behave and add the listeners to the proper place so that we can give the answer that the company wants and needs. Because now, especially with AI, we may have regulated audit criterias. In many industries, we need to justify decisions. So decision management is the name of the game here. So let's go right into it. So let's start with the same demo we've been using, the same app, the Vehicle Insurance Hub. So this is an insurance quoting system, very simple. I'll get a new quote here so you see that I can just fill some random data and request a new quote. And here I get a risk rate, and the value of the insurance is the premium, and that's calculated by the estimated value of the car, in this case a 2024 Honda Accord, and the risk rate, which now was set to 10.72%. And yeah, that's how the app works, very simple. What I want to do here is create a rule and audit that rule and audit that decision. So I'll create a very simple rule here, but this could be as complicated as you want, right? So my rule is that we can't have a risk rate that is too high or too low, because if it's too high, say 15% of the value of the car, that's not viable for the customer. And let's say that if it's too low, if it's less than 5%, it may not be viable for the insurance company. So that's the criteria that I want to set and audit in my data. And I want to do this without changing the app. So let's consider this a legacy app that I can't really touch. So here in Analytics Decision Control, I created this new model. And one cool thing here is that I can use this model here in Decision Control or right into my IDE. So we just announced support for VS Code and IntelliJ, and other IDEs are coming. And here we can see the models. Here's the original car quote model that takes in the ticket risk, the accidents, the age, the mileage, and multiplies by the car estimated value to give you that insurance premium. We saw how that works in previous videos. Now I want to talk about the auditing side. So this is my very simple rule, audit result, which if the risk rate is below 5% or more than 12%, it's an error, too low or too high. If it's between 5 and 10, that's what I consider okay. And if it's between 10 and 12, that's just a warning. Perhaps some human should review that or get that information somehow. And the little piece of magic that I added here is this text annotation. Here is how I bind the event to the model. So I created a very simple app that takes my models, looks up for the ones that are annotated with that little @ and use that to listen for events that matches that data. So that's my little hack. And then when it finds a message on Kafka on our event stream that gives us that hint, that binding, that matches with that text, I will invoke the model. I'll call the model and get the result. So here in the app, I built a separate audit app, and we can see that for this example that we just had of 10.72%, it is correctly flagged as a warning. So here we have all messages in the Kafka queue for all the events, and here my specific audit event. Let's do one more. So I'll get a new quote, fill with random values, and get a quote now with an OK value, and you should see that as OK. And if I get a new quote, fill with random data again, but let's make it a bit worse with accidents, tickets, high mileage, old car, everything, the worst case, and get my quote. Now it's above our threshold, and we should see in the audit app audit error, an audit failure. And this is basically it, a very simple audit rule, but the cool thing about decision management is that it just triggers the model. So if the viability rules that you have are more complex, if you have more elements in that model, you can ask AI to generate a model with all the rules that you want, and it will build them for you. So that's the cool part. You can build a model that is always correct, precise, fast, and tied to your data. Here I used Debezium to capture the data, so it's a very simple integration with most databases. Just get the replication data from the database and throw it into Kafka, matches with our model annotation, and triggers the model for an audit. So I hope that you see that in this way, I don't need to change the Insurance Hub app, and I absolutely did not. There is no audit signal, let's say, or any change at all to make this because it's all integrated through the database. I'm just showing how you can match with your rules automatically. And all that takes the same advantages of decision model that we saw before. So those rules are managed, are tracked, are tested, are versioned, so you can see what was published when, by who, here in your Analytics decision control. So here I can see all the versions for all the models, when they were published, and change them if I want, and have those be applied live. Yeah. So that's enterprise auditing without changing your legacy. I hope you found it interesting. See you in the next one.